Welcome to the Secrets of Personal Injury Law with Colin Bober.
Hello and welcome to the Secrets of Personal Injury Law with Colin Bober. I'm your host, Kevin Rosenquist, and today we're going to talk about demystifying the personal injury claim process. Colin, thanks for being here. Great to see you.
Hey, happy to be here.
All right, so what are the first steps a person should take immediately after being involved in an accident?
A lot of people, in my opinion, should at least call the police to get some kind of record. You know, at least the police are the people that talk to both parties and collect all the insurance, get their side of the story, document any injuries if there are any, and that's a pretty good start. And then after that, you want to take pictures of both vehicles, license plates, driver's license if you have it, as much information about any buildings that are around you in case we need to pull video camera footage. If there's a liability dispute and we can pull the camera, that's what we want to see. Sometimes the police report is accurate and sometimes it's not. So the more information you can gather at the beginning, the better off you're going to be in terms of a successful claim.
So that was kind of my next question about getting documentation. So you kind of went over that. Now, obviously, when people are in accidents, things can get a little haywire. You know, you
Right.
could, even if you're not hurt, you could just be rattled. And, you know, what happens when someone kind of neglects to get enough, or maybe not enough, but the information you just spoke about, is it still, you know, can you still kind of get some of that information after the fact if people aren't able to do it?
Sure you can. And that's why at a minimum, we encourage people to at least call the police.
Right.
But sometimes when people call the police will ask, well, are you injured? And if you're not injured, then they'll be like, well, if there aren't any injuries, we're not going to come out. It doesn't happen very often, but it's possible, which is why, you know, having the wherewithal to at least consider, okay, well, if the police aren't going to come, let me get the license plate of the other driver. Maybe I don't get their driver's license, but if I can identify the vehicle and I can identify where I was, then I can potentially go to like a nearby restaurant and get, you know, video footage and things like that. So at a minimum, yeah, I would encourage them to call the police. But like I said, the police don't always come out.
I guess I didn't realize that the police don't always come out. I just assumed they did for anything. Like,
just background on me, I've done this for about 10 years now and handled over 4,000 claims. And that is not uncommon. It doesn't happen very often, but it's not uncommon. So it's really up to the client or the claimant to collect that information. And some people do really well. You know, everything now today is, you know, everybody's got a video of something. Or you know, or if you can't do that, if you can't do things like that, if there were any other cars around you that witnessed it, then that's beneficial too. But like you said, a lot of people are rattled and they're high on adrenaline. They just got hit. And that's not the first thing you think about. So you just want to be aware of your surroundings and see what information you collect, because it'll make it a lot easier to pursue your claim.
yeah, it makes sense. So tell me about the process for filing a personal injury claim in Texas. Are there specific forms, deadlines? Like, what should people know?
It's better to open a claim with the at-fault parties insurance as soon as possible. Opening a claim, all you have to do is say, hey, I need to open a claim. I was just in an accident. You don't have to specify whether it's for bodily injury or property damage. You can just say, I need to open a claim. The problem comes in as when they'll ask you as they get information from you. They'll ask you, when did it happen? What's the policy number? How did it happen? Are there any witnesses like I described? And then they will ask you if you're injured. Okay. And so if they ask you if you're injured and it just happened yesterday, then the best thing to say is, I think I'm going to at least go get checked out.
Yeah, don't say yes or no. Just say I'm going to get checked out.
Oh, it just happened. It just happened. I think I'm going to go get checked out, because what they'll do is they'll take that information from you and say, well, the police report didn't indicate anybody was injured at the scene. And when I asked you whether you were injured when you opened the claim, you said no. But the truth of the matter is you're so high on adrenaline that you don't feel what you feel within 24 to 48 hours.
Totally.
Right. So you don't want to close that door. You don't have to lie. I mean, you don't have, if you're not injured, you're truly not injured, you can say no, but you want to say, in my opinion, leave the door open to give yourself the opportunity to say, I think I'm going to at least go get checked out.
Yeah. I mean, I've played sports before and not, you know, like playing hockey or something like that. And I don't realize I'm injured till I'm in the locker room where I'm like, oh man, what did I do to my ankle? You know, but in the moment, your blood is pumping so hard, you don't feel it the same.
Right. And like you said, you know, you're what we referenced earlier, you're not thinking about collecting all that information that I just described. So at a minimum, the best you can do is call the police and get that statement, because they'll talk to both parties, get the side of the story. But the other reason you want to collect that information is because assuming that the police report, at least in Texas, is done, it won't even be available for 10 to 14 days.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
if you open a claim and they'll be like, well, is there a police report? Then the insurance company has to do their liability investigation to determine who they believe is at fault. And if the police report's not available for 14 days, then it drags on the process. Whereas you say, hey, the police report's not ready, but I have a witness. Or I went to the local business and they gave me the video footage. Then it speeds up the claim. Otherwise, you have to wait. A lot of people are concerned about getting their car fixed because that's the main way they get around and take care of their kids and all that stuff. Yeah. And until a liability decision is made based on all the information, you're chilling unless you're going through your own insurance, which that's the number one gripe. Yeah, sure, people are injured and they want to get taken care of, but they also have to move on with their life. And they can't do it without a car. So you have two options. You can wait for liability to be established, or you can go through your own auto insurance. But a lot of people are like, forget that. I'm not at fault. I'm not doing that. Right. So it's really about collecting the information to help the client or the attorney, if they choose to get one, to help speed up the process. Otherwise, the liability investigation, they open the claim and then they have to reach out to their insured to get a statement from their insured. And if the insured believes that they're not at fault, they may not answer the phone to give their recorded statement that's required. And if they can't get a hold of their insured, they may deny coverage for non-cooperation. So it can turn into a whole mess, which is why it's just having that frame of reference to do your best to collect as much information as possible is the best. And a lot of people now, I encourage everybody, if possible, to get a dash cam, because the dash cam always saves the day. Always.
Yeah, I know some people who have one and they swear by it.
Yes, absolutely. And they got really savvy now because you can get one that points to the front and the back.
Right. You mentioned talking to insurance companies, and do you have any more do's and don'ts as far as the communication process with the insurance company?
After the claim is open, they have the people that open the claim, and that's not your assigned adjuster. They just do the claim intake. But then your claim gets reassigned to an adjuster who handles the property damage and or BI, bodily injury, if you claim both, right?
Right.
And so that adjuster is going to call you if you're not represented and say, hey, can I have a recorded statement? And the answer in my practice is always no. You're not required in Texas to give a recorded statement to an at-fault insurance company. Not at all. And the caveat to that is if you open a claim with your own insurance company, you are obligated to give a recorded statement in terms of the policy. Okay, so that's a big distinction. When I say don't give a statement, I mean to the at-fault person, not to your own. And so the reason you don't want to do that, insurance companies have gotten pretty savvy over the past couple of years where they'll ask you questions on a recorded line, and they'll ask you how it happened and what did my insured say anything to you, whatever. And sometimes they'll say, okay, well, based on the information you've given me, would you accept like $3,500 in settlement? And right, if it happens the next day, because you just opened the claim, you're like, I feel good. I don't need any treatment. Yeah, I'll take $3,500.
Sure.
And what'll happen is they'll send you the check. And then after a couple of days, after you cash the check, you'll get an attorney because you're like, I don't feel right. And at that point, it's game over.
Yeah.
You settled it. The check says full and final. They have a transcript of you saying, I'll take it. It's over. And so you have to, and the other part of it too is in a recorded statement, you're giving the statement, but you're giving it to the other insurance company who's paid and obligated to defend the other party. They pay them to take their side, right? So all they have to do is get you saying something from their insured to say there's a word versus word situation here. We don't know who's at fault, so we're going to deny the claim. So I would say if you have a police report that goes in your favor, ride that wave, and if you want an attorney because the insurance company is doing something that doesn't make sense to you, then go get one. But I would never give a recorded statement to an insurance company if I didn't have to.
So they'll call you. Is that what you're saying? They'll call you and try to I don't want to say trick because that sounds devious, but but they'll try to take you off guard a little bit.
Yeah. And so in my practice, if for some reason I decide, you know what, let's just go ahead and play ball and give a recorded statement, I only allow a written statement, which means I'm giving you the facts that I want to give you. I'm not allowing you to ask me any questions that are outside the purview of what you don't.
Yeah.
Right. So that's the option. You can always elect to give a written statement, but you are not obligated to give any statement whatsoever to somebody else's insurance company. And I always recommend that you don't.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a good point about the written statement, because you have time to like think that one through. You're not like taken off guard by a question you weren't expecting or something like that. That makes a lot of sense.
Right. If you're gonna talk to the insurance company, you always want to keep it within, like in football, like keep it all in front of you. You don't want to see anything sneak up on you. So you set the parameters of the conversation by limiting your responses to only things that they need to know.
I like the football reference. Who's your team?
Oklahoma Sooners, baby.
Nice.
Except for that Tennessee loss. That hurt.
It wasn't the best showing. I did watch that game. It wasn't the best showing. Story for another podcast. How does negligence factor into personal injury claims, and how can that be established under Texas law?
It's beneficial to think through the process from that point of view in terms of a litigation process. Because when you go through the claims process, all the insurance company is doing is making a business decision, right? So they accept liability and they push your claim forward and they'll pay for your car. But if you reject their offer for one reason or another and we have to file suit, then you have to go, all that stuff is off the table. You have to prove liability, you have to prove the damage, you have to prove the negligence. So Texas law defines negligence as there was a duty of somebody to drive their vehicle in a reasonable, prudent manner. There was a breach of that duty because, for example, that person got a ticket for excessive speed and rear-ended somebody, which is the breach. That breach and the impact caused the injury that somebody's complaining of, which created the damages, which are economic, the dollar figure, and or general damages, which are your pain and suffering and mental anguish.
Okay.
So if you think about it, the insurance company, if you settle with the insurance company, and people freak out about this a lot, even if you settle it pre-suit, the release will say this is a disputed claim, meaning they're telling you that they're accepting liability as a business decision. But if you reject their offer, you have to go to court and prove all that. So that's why people are like, well, they said they're at fault. Yes, they did, but it's a business decision. You still have the obligation as the plaintiff to prove every element of what you're claiming.
Okay. Yeah. So just them saying it was my fault is not good enough.
Right. Because like I said, because they're just making a business decision to limit the exposure of their own insured. A lot of people, just as a reference, a lot of people think that when a lawsuit is filed against somebody who's at fault, a lawsuit is against the insurance company, but it's not. You sue the driver for negligence, like you just described. And then because that driver has a contract with the insurance company, that insurance company jumps in to provide them with a defense. So a lot of people say, well, the insurance company treated me unfairly and I want to sue them. That's not how it works. And as a matter of fact, you can't even mention the words insurance at trial. Otherwise, you get a mistrial. The insurance is never mentioned at all.
Wow.
So the fact that on a third-party claim, or in plain English, a claim against somebody else, you can't even mention the word insurance at all.
I did not know that.
Yeah. The reason why is because it creates bias with the jury. If they know that somebody with big pockets is responsible for the bill, they could raise the verdict.
Right. Yeah, I see that. I could see that, especially because people don't always have the best opinion of insurance companies.
Exactly. So you may be very frustrated with the way the insurance company treated you, but it's not relevant. And that's unfortunate because you can't even mention it. Versus if you have to sue your own insurance company, then you can mention insurance because it's a breach of contract action, not a negligence action.
Right.
So you can name the insurance company, but in typical accidents where one person hits another, you can't sue the insurance company. You can only sue the person that hit you for negligence.
How often is litigation necessary? Just kind of as a general rule in your experience.
We probably file suit about 20% of the time.
Okay, that's pretty low. That's not too much.
No, it's not because I mean, after a while, this is where it gets really funny because after so many cases, all the insurance companies, they make the same arguments.
You get used to it.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I know how to respond so quickly because I've heard it before.
Right, many times.
Like one of my favorite ones recently was with, I'm not going to name any insurance companies because that would be bad. But because in all fairness, I think they're all equally bad. So it doesn't matter who I'm talking. Okay, they're all garbage, and it doesn't matter who you pick. They're all just garbage. So they're all on equal footing. We had one where the client got hit by another insured, obviously, and the insurance company accepted liability, totally clear. But they came back and said that they weren't going to cover any of his medical bills because they didn't think that the impact was severe enough to cause any injury. okay, well that's cute because you didn't talk to him. He never gave a statement to you. You never evaluated him. You have no idea, right?
Yeah.
And so the adjuster got on the phone with me and I said, so are you telling me at a minimum that my client can at least go get checked out at the hospital after getting hit by your driver? He said, well, your client can go to the hospital. That's up to him, but it doesn't mean we have to pay for it. So I said, okay, well, you only give me one option, which means I'm going to have to sue your insurer. And he said, go ahead. And he actually said the words, I don't think you have a chance.
Oh, them's fighting words.
Yeah, it was. and then he said, we'll defend this vigorously. And I'm like, okay, well, that's cool because that's not a bargaining chip. That's your contractual obligation.
Yeah.
Like, that's not scary to me.
Yeah, right. Like, that's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, that's what they pay you for.
Right, yeah.
And so we filed suit as promised, and we had him served. And then after 7 days, we got a call from the assigned attorney who said, this is dumb. Like, here's the policy limit. And they just gave it to me because they say the same thing. And, a lot of people are like, well, why would I want an attorney in the first place? And I don't like to do the whole, attorney can get you more compensation or we'll promise you the world. If you look,
the stuff you see on the commercials and stuff.
It's cringy, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, listen, the system is set up to make you want an attorney because a lot of people don't know when you open a claim and you get assigned an adjuster, that's a frontline adjuster with almost limited authority. Mm-hmm. Whereas if you have an attorney, there's a different adjuster with more authority. And then after you file suit, there's a litigation adjuster with more authority. So it almost is designed for attorneys to be required to get you to the right person to talk to. Now, anybody can file suit. Any person in the world can file a lawsuit, but most people don't want to deal with it.
Sure. Yeah.
Because the law requires if you file a lawsuit by yourself or pro se, then you're held to the same standard as a lawyer, right? So a lot of people don't. That's why you should hire an attorney. It's not to get a bajillion dollars because you never know what a jury is going to do. Nobody can promise you in good faith that you're going to get X $1,000 out of the settlement. We don't know. Nobody can tell you. And those online calculators that'll tell you you could be entitled to X thousand. There's no way to know that in good faith. Right. So the system is designed for you to get an attorney to get you to the right person to talk to. So that adjuster who was barking at me, he wasn't a litigation adjuster, but the litigation adjuster gave me the money after I filed suit. It's a stupid game that unfortunately people have to play. And that's why I like to do this podcast, because I want to share how this process actually works.
Right. Yeah.
So a consumer can decide, can I do this on my own or do I need an attorney? And let them decide.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for tuning in to the Secrets of Personal Injury Law with Colin Bober. If you want to get in touch with Colin, his website is boberlawfirm.com. And don't forget to like and subscribe and keep watching these to stay up to date and understand the personal injury law process. Colin, great to have you here. Thanks for chatting with me.
Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.